Hi, gorgeous, and welcome to the Confident, Energized, and Sexy Mama Show. I am Dorit Palvanov, your host, feminine energy expert, health coach for women, registered holistic nutritionist, and the creator of the groundbreaking health and mindset program for moms, Energized, designed for perimenopausal women who are done having kids and are ready to get their confidence, energy, and sexy back. Ladies, think about it. What would the world look like if, as women, we stopped being so harsh on ourselves and instead felt more energized, powerful, confident, and more connected to our bodies? What if, as women, we honored the fact that we are built and wired differently than men, and being different does not mean being inferior? That the go, go, go mentality, alongside doing more to have more without ever pausing and resting, only leads to chronic stress, anxiety, burnout, overwhelm, lack of joy, and corrodes our health, relationships, and vitality. What if, as women, wives, and mothers, we had the courage and confidence to desire more? More freedom, power, energy, joy, abundance, pleasure, fun, play, and sex, all on our own terms. Mama, you deserve to feel good. You deserve to form healthy relationships, and your body needs, craves, and deserves pleasure. This is your birthright. You're here because you believe in your feminine energy. You're here because you care about health and the environment, and you're not afraid to take action and change. You're here because you don't want to pass on a pattern of self destruction, hiding, and not speaking your truth to your daughters. You're here because you're done feeling stuck, living a mediocre life as a half woman. You're here because you are done struggling and, frankly, can no longer afford to feel like crap. Each week, I will be here for you, dropping a healthy dose of inspiration and motivation, as well as introducing you to my brilliant guests, where we will dive deep into all things womanhood, feminine power, energy, psychology, holistic and alternative health, food, nutrition, hormones, fitness, mindset, motherhood, relationships, sex, business, and much more. So, Mama, are you ready to take back control of your health? Let's do this. Hey, gorgeous. Today I am super excited to share another interview with a new friend of mine I met online. I get to chat with Kristina from juliakristina.com. She's a registered clinical counselor and the founder and host of the weekly YouTube channel Julia Kristina Ma, where she talks about mindfulness, mindset, and mental wellness with over 100K subscribers. And she's also a wife and mom of three. I found Julia on my own quest, healing from codependency, and I just love following her online. I think she's just a wealth of knowledge, information. I also love her upbeat, bubbly personality and how she has this ability to simplify and a very kind of like heavy topic like mental health. She just has this ability to bring it down to simple terms, understandable terms that you can easily relate to. I think you absolutely have to check her out. So today on the show, we focused our conversation on motherhood just to stay in line with the theme of the show. We talked about motherhood, anxiety, postpartum depression, and everything in between. And my hope is that her advice and expertise will help you to change your mindset around your own mental health and serve as a reminder that you are not broken, weak, weird, stupid, or anything else that circles in your mind. You are whole and complete just as you are. And if you need some help from a therapist, counselor, or a coach, it doesn't make you less than. It only makes you a seeker who's determined to live life to the fullest. And this is important for you to remember, especially since you are raising little people. I've shared many times that throughout my own journey, I've hired coaches, therapists, mentors, and healers, and I still do because I wholeheartedly believe that we were not meant to do this alone. So here's what we've talked about briefly: the difference between coaching and therapy, the stigma of mental health, and what to do when you're afraid of facing hard things, which happens to all of us, our emotional reactions, how they're created, and how to take more control of your own life and change, the mother wound and individuating from our own mothers to gain more confidence, energy, and owning our power back, individuating from our mothers and why we have to stop blaming our parents, the one thing that we must do to raise confident daughters, anxiety in motherhood and how to lower its intensity, the need for control and living in isolation and the price that we're paying for it as mothers. And then we talked about the steps that moms can take to heal from postpartum depression, and Julia had a lot to say about that, so please make sure to listen. And also, we talked briefly about antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication, whether it's safe, whether it's okay to take or not. I think it was a beautiful conversation, packed with information. I definitely think this episode is one to listen again, and maybe even take some notes, and feel free if Julia, Kristina, if her style speaks to you and you feel like, you need that kind of help, please reach out. Let her know that I sent you. Or if you feel more comfortable reaching out to me, by all means, find me over at Instagram at Dorit Palvanov Coaching. Send me a DM and we can talk about further help that you can get. All right, so without further ado, let's dive into the interview. Today on the show, I'm so excited to bring you somebody who I found online. Bless internet, bless YouTube. I was actually looking for some information from my own life about, I think it was about codependence or something of that sort, and I stumbled upon Julia's beautiful, informative YouTube channel. So you know what, Julia, I think the best way for you would be just to, why don't you introduce yourself, tell the audience what it is that you do, who it is that you help, and then the other thing that I am personally very curious to know is why did you decide to do this kind of work, and what motivates you, and all those things. So with that, welcome, and go ahead and share with us.
Thank you so much for having me here. Yes, I'm so excited to have this conversation. These are the conversations that fuel me, talking about how we work as human beings and how to help us work better, because life doesn't come with a manual. Our brains don't come with a manual. Our emotions don't come with a manual. And so we're just expected to know how to navigate life emotionally and psychologically, but we don't ever really get taught how. So a lot of us have learned some unhealthy ways of handling things. We've learned some unhealthy ways of seeing ourselves and handling ourselves through things that we've experienced and been through or been taught in our formative years. They're called formative years because that's a lot of when we're forming our beliefs about ourselves, about other people and the world. And so when I say that I do, is I'm not here to help people change and become something or someone else. I'm here to help them get through the crap that's holding them back from being who they are. So getting rid of the stuff that we've piled on top through years of faulty messaging and unhelpful learning of different things, and to get through that stuff so that we can be more of who we really are underneath it. I think that even, I'll go off on a bit of a tangent here, even thinking that we need to change to become someone or something else, I think that in and of itself is a really harmful message, because it's saying that there's something wrong with you as a person. There's nothing wrong with us as people. We've just learned some really unhelpful ways of relating to ourselves in the world, and we need to relearn some of that stuff. So that's really what I love doing. I love helping people just feel like they're not crazy, they're not weird, they're not broken, they're not flawed. They just need to unlearn some unhelpful things that they've learned. And like you and I were talking about before we started, connect back with themselves and take better care of themselves. So that's a lot of what I do.
Yeah, I love how on your website you have this quote, and it is, you said that, but I'm going to quote you. So you say, we can have real conversations about the deep things within us that we're struggling with, but we don't have to get weird about it. We all have thoughts, we all have emotions, and none of us have this humaning thing all figured out. I love it so much. It's so true. And professionally, just so that people know, you are a therapist, a psychologist. How do you call yourself?
Yeah, I'm a registered clinical counselor. So I have a master's degree in counseling psychology. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Guys, so Julia is somebody I want you to pay attention to. All right, cool. Just a side note. Okay, cool. I want you to pay attention to all the speakers, but especially here, because I am going to be addressing some questions. I'm going to be asking some questions that are related specifically to your emotional health, to your mental health. And even though in my practice, I do cover a lot, I talk a lot about emotional mastery, and I do talk a lot about your emotional health and how to take care of yourself on the emotional field. I did want to bring on somebody who really is like the expert, and who can really bring her perspective in terms of that it's possible to actually heal this piece in yourself, and you don't have to keep living like this and keep struggling and suffering. And to me, it's especially important because we are taking care of little people, and because we are growing the next generation. And like Julia mentioned earlier, it really all happens and all begins in the formative years. And so if your children are really little and they're seeing you struggling emotionally and mentally, I mean, you don't have to be a psychologist to understand that it's something that, that it's just kind of like a patterning, an emotional patterning that is going to be passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You for sure know this much better than I do. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I wanted to begin with just terminology, because I remember when I just got into this field and learning about emotions and therapy and coaching and all that stuff, I was quite confused. So why don't you help me and also the audience to understand the difference between therapy, counseling, coaching, and maybe other modalities of help? And also, how can we know where is the right place for us to go for help?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So therapy and counseling, it's the same thing. It means the exact same thing. Coaching and counseling, those lines are becoming more and more blurred in this day and age. Therapy and counseling traditionally used to be more about doing kind of the deep work. No, that's not even true. It's not even about the deep work. Counseling and therapy used to be traditionally more for mental illness. People who were struggling with some kind of significant, often debilitating mental illness. Nowadays, I say, and I always tell this to people, everybody needs a therapist. Yeah. And no matter where you are, we all have varying degrees of physical health. We all have varying degrees of mental health. And so being able to take care of ourselves, take care of our minds, is as essential as taking care of our bodies. And so really looking at this whole idea that therapy isn't for people who are barely getting by. It's for everyone. It's for all of us. We all have areas that we need to work on. We all have things that we need to deal with. We all even have stuff that we need to heal from. And so often the difference between counseling and coaching, but there's different coaches who do different kinds of work. And so it's a little bit tricky to really say for sure, like this definite clear boundary. But typically coaches work with what's going on right now, and they help you get tools to move forward. Whereas therapists tend to dive deeper under the iceberg. So if you can imagine an iceberg, a coach will typically deal with what's on the surface and help you kind of optimize what's on the surface, whereas a therapist will really help you deep dive into what's going on underneath that's causing the stuff on the surface. So if there's cracks in the top of the iceberg, a coach might help you patch up the cracks, whereas a therapist is going to go down deep and be like, okay, why are we getting cracks in the first place? What's that sort of deeper stuff that we need to work through, that we need to address, that we need to resolve? Now, I also say that with a grain of salt, because research also shows that you don't necessarily have to go into this like deeper inner working stuff in order to be able to move forward. So a lot of the work that I do, so I do a little bit of both. I help people kind of dive deeper into the deeper underlying stuff, but I also really help them with the surface stuff. I don't just help you deal with what's going underneath. I help you take that and, okay, what do I do with that now? How do I implement those changes? How do I move forward? I'm a very action-oriented person because I don't think people just want to feel better. They want to feel better for a reason. So what is not feeling good holding me back from? Is it holding me back from being the mom that I want to be? Is it holding me back from growing in my professional life? Is it holding me back from having the energy to get out and move my body and play sports or go dancing or go for a run or just like play with my kids or whatever it is? Why do I want to feel better? What I'm currently struggling with? What is that holding me back from? And so really working on why we're struggling and then getting out of the struggle and then figuring out what we do now. How do we move forward now? So I don't think that was the best, really clear, as my grade 8 science teacher used to say. Is it clear as mud?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I say often too, as a therapist, I tend to work a little bit more like a coach, but with the brain and the training of a therapist so that we can go into the deep stuff if we need to. And I'm also always thinking about how the problems on the surface are the result of this deeper stuff that's going on. And I really do think a lot of the time we have to look at what's underneath the surface, because we can't just sort of pretty up the front, like pretty up the top and think that that's going to make a lasting difference.
Yeah, I so agree with this, and I'm glad that you brought up this the distinction between having that not it's not therapy. It's not only reserved to people with clear mental illness. And I love also, I don't know if you're familiar with Rachel Hollis. Are you familiar with Rachel?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I love how she talks a lot about therapy and how she and her husband both did therapy. They are like normal people. And not to say that people with mental health are not normal, but just like they didn't need therapy for clinical reasons.
Yes.
They needed therapy just to like sort through their lives and get skills to deal with this emotional stuff. So I'm so happy that you're bringing this up, because I see this. I mean, in my own personal life, I see therapy or asking for help with our emotions or with our feelings as being so stigmatized.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you go through therapy and something is wrong with you, you're crazy, like you
Right.
have psychological problems. And so thank you so much for saying it like that, because I totally agree. Therapy is something that we all need to do. It's like Rachel Hollis says, if I had the money of Beyonce, I would pay for everybody's therapy. It's so true. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. My next question would be around, what would you say to a woman, a mother, a wife, doesn't matter, who knows that there is some crap in the
Mm.
past. I mean, I've had this
We
conversation.
all have crap in the past. Let's
Right,
be honest. No one
yes,
rides for free. Like, let us be
exactly.
honest.
Right.
None of us.
It's just there are so many women that come my way, and
Yeah.
they are so clear in terms of like, Dorit, listen, I have absolutely no intention in diving, in like going to my past
Yeah.
because it's painful and I don't even want to remember that it
Totally.
happened to me. So my question for you would be, first of all, how do you respond to a woman who believes that there's this like black mark in her past? It's something that she doesn't even want to see clearly. And then the next thing would be, why is it actually important for your current life, as a woman, wife, and the mother? Why is it important to look at those things?
It's a really good question, Dorit, because you know what research actually shows is you don't have to drudge up the past in order to move forward. And it really depends on the person. So I use something a lot in my therapy called cognitive behavior therapy. And that is really about looking at our thoughts and beliefs. So we can go a little bit deep here and we can talk about how our emotions are created from our thoughts. So most situations, interactions, and circumstances in life are neutral. They have no value, like they have no meaning other than the meaning that we give them. Now, some coaches will say it's all your thoughts. So every time you experience an emotion, it's because you're having a thought about it. But that's also not entirely true because of attachment. And I don't want to get too jargony and psychobabbly here, but there are fundamental things inside of us that we don't have to think are harmful or painful or difficult. Our body and our brains and the way we're wired just knows that they are. And, you can think about, and I'm going to give a little bit of a more intense example here, but you can think about a child who is abused, and their abuser tells them, this is okay, this is how it's supposed to be, this is this is great, and this is the right thing to do. So an adult can tell a child that, but there's something inside the child that knows that this is wrong. Mm-hmm. That this is not, like, our brains and our deeper inner psyche knows that that is wrong. And so no matter what a child is told, even if they have been told to have thoughts that this is okay, they know that it's not without even having to have learned that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a little bit more of an intense example. That's why it's not 100% our thoughts that create our emotions, but more often than not, it is. The way we see something, the way we interpret it, what we make it mean is what creates our emotional reaction to something. And so a lot of my work, the work that I do, is we learn, like, what are my thought patterns? What are my self-defeating beliefs that I have? What is this perspective, this lens that I've been spending my life walking around looking through that I thought was just like 20/20 vision, but is actually kind of a foggy, scratched up, little bit mangled lens that's kind of welded on my face that I thought was just reality, the way things were. And so I work to help kind of like take off the mask and maybe sometimes see things more accurately, or see things a little bit in a more healthy, productive, and helpful way. So maybe we take off, I heard a coach call this once, we take off the skepticals, because a lot of times we're going through life with these skepticals thinking that, people are against us, or people are judging us, or we're not good enough, or we're failures, or there's something wrong with us, and we're kind of going through life with these skepticals on, and maybe take those off and learn to put on some rose-colored glasses. Not in the way of looking at the world in a everything is wonderful, everything is great, there are no problems, kind of Pollyanna, unrealistic sort of perspective, but maybe looking at things in a more productive way. So this isn't about lying to ourselves. This isn't about saying that, like, no human being is ever going to think anything negative about me, but we're really going to take a step back and we're going to decide, if they do think something negative about me, what am I going to make that mean about me as a person? Am I going to make it mean that I'm not good enough, that I'm a reject, that I'm a loser? Or am I going to make it mean that maybe they have their own stuff going on that they're taking out on me? Or maybe I did something that there was a misinterpretation or a miscommunication. Maybe it means that I did do something that bothered them and they're not handling it in a really good way, and it would probably be better for us to sit down and have a conversation about it. So that's sort of what I'm talking about there with changing our perspective and learning how to understand our world and what's going on in and around us in a more helpful and healthy way. And so that's a huge part of it. At the same time, yes, as a therapist, I am sort of always kind of watching like what might be going on this under the surface that's created these beliefs. And sometimes with my clients, we will dive, and with my students in my coaching program, we will dive a little bit more into where these beliefs came from in the first place, without necessarily going into all of the painful details of trauma, if that's what the person went through. We don't have to actually dig up the trauma and unpack the trauma and like lay it all out there in order to move forward. Oftentimes we can just have a general understanding, and we can see how this experience shaped how I'm seeing myself in the world. It shaped why I maybe have trust issues. It shaped why I have self-esteem issues. It shaped why I struggle with believing in myself. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. And to bring it to our world, we are mothers here, and we are really learning how to take care of ourselves. One of the things that keeps coming up in my practice is our relationship with our moms. So there's something, I know, I was expecting this reaction. One thing that I do in my coaching practice, it's called healing the mother wound. And it's so clear to me, especially in my own experience, for me. So you refer to the word trauma. My trauma actually, it didn't start when I became a mom, but it was turned on when I became a mom.
Tell me what you mean by mother wound. I'd love to hear more about that.
So it's any pain, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, it doesn't matter. Any kind of pain that was inflicted on us, that was perceived by us, because at the end of the day, it's all about perception, right? By our mothers. And so for me, for example, my mother wound, and we all have it different. My mother wound was around feeling like you are incapable, feeling like you are small, playing small, not taking risks. And that was very much, and codependence. That's why I was looking you up. Feeling codependent and being so incapable by taking risks in life, and really looking up to my husband to, quote unquote, save me. Or to take care of me. So that was my trauma that was turned on. That was my mother wound that was turned on. I'm not saying that it started when I became a mom, but it definitely kind of like the switch was turned on at that when I became a mom, because that's my definition. My knowing of motherhood was, obviously I learned it from my mom. And here I was. So like you said, as a child or even as a human being, you have this higher sense, higher self that knows better. And so this conflict that I was in between, like, doing things like my mom used to do, but then there was this big other part of me who just knows, no, this can be done in a different way and should be done in a different way. So this is obviously it's a huge thing that I teach, but it's in a couple of sentences, that's what I refer to by mother wound. So I'm just curious to see what you think about this relationship, this formative relationship, specifically with our mothers, specifically as growing girls. And also if you can say a few words about this super important piece that I believe that we as human beings, and especially as girls, I call it graduating from the girlhood, from the world of girls into a world of womanhood, like graduating from girlhood into womanhood. So this process of individuating from your
Mm.
mother and like being in, person
Yep.
of your own. So I'm curious to know what you have to say.
Oh, I have so many things to say about that. I love it because
I am pausing the interview with Juliet just to share with you two amazing things that are happening over at my world. So, number one is my website. My new website is finally alive. So, from now on, no more healthbeginswithmom.com. Now it's doritpalvanov.com. I highly encourage you to go over there and just snoop around, check it out. Um, I've designed this website to be very feminine and kind of like welcoming and all about motherhood and womanhood. And I hope you will enjoy, browsing around. I made it super easy to find your way around. It's very clean design. By the way, my husband designed it for me. So if you are looking for designing a website, check him out. His company is called clicktie.com. I'm totally promoting my husband. Anyways, so my website is up and running and I'm super proud of it. It's a project that I've been working on for many, many, many months, and it's finally done. And yeah, it's ready for you. So, this is number one. Number two is I wanted to share with you that I am going to be hosting a webinar where I'm going to be teaching the 3 steps to getting your energy back after getting married and having kids. It's a free online training from me, because you know that motherhood is anything but energizing, right? I'm super excited to share what I've learned throughout the years, the coaching technique that I use. I'm going to be talking about the feminine current and how you can use this information. I've created this webinar to be, first of all, it's going to be short. I'm aiming at maybe 60 minutes. And then I also want it to be packed with um, actionable steps that you can implement immediately. So that's my goal, because I don't want you to come to the webinar, waste your time, listen to me blabbering and sharing and talking, and then leaving with, not really having anything that you can take to your life. So you will learn about I will show you exactly how to have more time for the things that matter most to you, from dancing to reading a book or relaxing, right? What's that as moms? Because it's time for you to let go of the tension that has you sneak bites of chocolate in the laundry room so that you don't have to share. So no more of that, childish behavior. I want to teach you exactly the steps that I have taken in my own life, in my own motherhood experience journey, that allows me still to this day to feel like I know how to replenish my energy. Also, another thing that we're going to be talking about is that, or that need that we have, or this fantasy that we have to go back to our old self, right? And but I want to show you that you still have it. It's nothing that you have lost. You may not want to be dancing all night at the disco, but I will give you practical, real life tools that will make you feel like you are at the disco, even when you're chopping carrots, folding the kids' soccer shorts, and rushing to make a drop off to the disapproving looks of other moms. Yeah, that's real life, right? You are a present mom and you are one heck of a sexy woman, and you know that you are in there. You know this. So I'm going to show you how to combine these two aspects of your life so that you can be the woman that you are meant to be. Ladies, I talk about it all the time. every single mama I speak to has experienced this loss of energy and vitality after getting married and having kids, right? Every woman wants her old self back. You may feel like you've lost this significant part of yourself, and with each passing day, you're worried that it won't come back. It's easy to get stuck in your daily mom routine packed with lunches, dance classes, missing soccer cleats, and fabric softener. Eventually, it gets to the point that you don't even appear on your own list of priorities, right? Honestly, and you know this is a recipe for feeling sucked dry, turned off, stuck, and unmotivated. But you deserve better, right? I'm sure that you've noticed the usual symptoms: tension, resentment, regret, fights, bitterness, and deep, quiet sadness, right? It all sips in slowly over time, right? I find in my own experience, the more kids I had, the deeper I was sinking into this quiet side sadness. And that's the stuff that most people don't see. But then there are also the physical ramifications, like weight gain, too many prescription pills, hormonal imbalances, thyroid conditions, and disheveled hair, right? So all of those things, when it already reaches to the point where your body is manifesting physical symptoms, that's when I think it's time for you to pay attention, right? So I'm here to tell you that this is important because you matter. And the good news, this is simpler and easier to correct than you think. It's time to stop feeling lost and start feeling more like yourself again. So, because you know that it's, you can be that confident, energized, and sexy woman that you desire to be. And I'll show you how. So the webinar is going to be on Wednesday, November the 13th, 2019. If you're listening in real time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be 12 p.m. Central Time and 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So in order to save your seat, head on over to Dorit Palvanov. So I'm going to spell it out for you. DORITPALVANOV.com/energy dash webinar. So I'm going to repeat that. DoritPalvanov.com/energy dash webinar. Sign up, click on save my seat. Seats are filling up fast, which is amazing. And I will see you on the other side. All right, now back to the interview with Julia Kristina.
It's so huge. And I work with so many women who have like pain from their moms. And I mean, and we're not here to point fingers and to blame moms, because I think all of us are doing our best with what we've got. And sometimes what we've got isn't a whole lot, but I think most people aren't sucking on purpose. I don't think most moms are like, I'm going to suck as a mom and I'm going to like impact my child and give her, things to talk about in therapy for the next 5 years.
Yes.
No one wants to do that. So we're not here to blame moms. We're just here to acknowledge that moms, parents are just older people. And I remember when I realized this, I think I didn't realize this until I became a parent. And I was like, oh, I'm still the same me. I'm not this all-knowing, all-wise, like, I
mentor
all-powerful being.
guru.
I'm still figuring it out. I still don't have my stuff figured out. And given the work that I do, I think that I'm a little further along than a lot of people, and I still don't have it all figured out. And so, so just this real recognition. I think becoming a mom myself helped me forgive my mom a lot, because I was like, oh, like, no, this stuff doesn't come with a manual. And you were dealing with your own stuff as well as trying to be a mom. But it's hard, especially if there was, like, I didn't have trauma from my mom, especially if there is that more severe trauma and that mistreatment, that significant mistreatment from our mom, that creates a whole other wound in there. But I think that, we have to heal from that. I always say, like, we talked about this at the beginning, Dort. I was going to say at the beginning, the most important, the most powerful thing we can do for our children to ensure that they grow up happy and healthy and confident is to work on our own stuff. Because children don't do what we tell them to do. They do what we do. And we see it, like, if you want to know what your issues are, notice the things that you get anxious about with your children. And mine came like full force in my face. I have a 6-year-old. My oldest is 6, and she's a girl. And my issues came full force into my face when I noticed myself getting anxious about what my daughter was wearing leaving the house, and how well her hair was done leaving the house. And I'm feeling myself compelled to be like, oh, like, you can't wear that. You have to put this outfit on you, and you have to have your hair done nicer. And I noticed myself getting anxious about it. She was perfectly fine going out in her striped pants, polka dot shirt, and red rain boots. She was totally fine doing that. And with her hair, she's like, Mom, I did my hair. And it's kind of this sort of like little bit disheveled ponytail. And it was my issues around image that were coming up that were driving me to want her to change. Now, I'm not saying that, like, let your children go out with like mats in their hair and like rips in their clothes and food all over the face. Like, they're, making sure your children are like taken care of. But if you're getting anxious about it, that's one of your own issues that is coming out that was probably you learned from your own mom. And when I think about it, yeah, my mom was very into image, but it was from her own wounding of not feeling beautiful, of not feeling good enough. And so felt like she had to put on this external presentation in order for other people to look and say, oh, look at Cheryl and her kids. Look at how lovely and put together they are. She must be doing a good job, or she must be someone that I can admire or look up to. Because sometimes we do that. We sort of we try to create these reactions in other people, or these perceptions, these false perceptions in other people, so that they will see us how we really want to be seeing ourselves, because we're struggling with how we see ourselves. And so anytime we're sort of like hustling for that worthiness, then we know that there's something inside of us that needs to be healed. And so absolutely not saying that if you like to look nice, if you like to go out and you like to do your hair and put on makeup, if you like to show up and be put together on the outside. I'm not saying that that means that you have deep psychological issues, but if it's making you anxious and stressed out, and if the thought of going out not totally put together, you'd rather die than go out without your lipstick on, then there might be something going on there that needs to be looked at, that needs to be addressed. And same thing with our kids. When there's things about our children that are making us, like, unnecessary things that are making us really anxious about them, then that's a good sign that there's something unhealed inside of us. There's something undealt with inside of us.
Oh, I love you said that, because my next question would be about, it was about anxiety, especially postpartum anxiety. And like I said, for me, I feel like, and I know that a lot of women would resonate with it, definitely the ones who are my clients, the anxiety being something that definitely became a thing after becoming a parent. So I wanted, maybe you can share a little bit of your own experience, or maybe your expertise around what is happening to us. Why is anxiety so prevalent these days?
Oh, I think so many things.
Yeah, tell me.
Okay, well, we'll talk about a few of them, but I'm not going to be able to cover all of them.
Yes.
So I don't, like, anxiety doesn't just show up postpartum.
Yes.
It becomes exacerbated. So maybe, like, it's, chances are there was always some kind of anxiety. And you know what? The truth is, we all experience anxiety. Anxiety is an emotion. Some people to greater or lesser extent. Anxiety is not a bad thing. No emotion is bad. There's no such thing as a bad emotion or a good emotion or a high vibe emotion or a low vibe emotion. There's just emotions. And emotions can be used for good, like they can be used to help us or to hurt us, depending on the situation, depending on how it's being used. They're just emotions. And so we really got to take this sort of stigma outside of having different emotions, because often what happens is then we have one of these like negative or like low vibe emotions,
Yes.
and then we're like, what's wrong with me? I'm failing.
Yes.
Like, how come I can't be happy all the time? How come I'm struggling? No, the goal in life is not to only feel half of our feelings and then you're a complete being. That makes absolutely no sense. The goal is to change our relationship with our emotions so that we allow ourselves to have our emotions without getting stuck under them. And this is so much what I teach, is how to change your relationship with your emotions, how to create space for your emotions, how to let yourself be in your experience and get curious about it, get curious about what's going on, instead of getting critical at ourselves for not having it together all the time, which that in and of itself is what makes it worse. That was a lot, and that was a really deep concept and idea. So you can rewind that and replay that and listen to that again. But that is really sort of this core concept of what I teach in my breakthrough coaching program, which is my 12-week group coaching program to break through the things that hold us back, the emotional stuff, specifically anxiety, worry, and self-doubt. So looking at postpartum anxiety, yep, babies, we can't control them. They have a mind of their own, they have a schedule of their own, they have needs of their own, and anxiety loves control. So often we can keep anxiety at bay if we can control our surroundings. And so often when we don't have children, we can have a pretty good amount of control, or at least this illusion of control in our lives. We can kind of arrange things and finagle things. It's all kind of up to us.
Yes.
To make things the way we want them to be. And so then the anxiety sort of sits dormant because we're, doing a really good job of kind of manhandling everything in our life to keep us safe, right? To kind of give this sense of safety and comfort and predictability. So then baby comes along, and baby is vulnerable, and baby is unpredictable, and baby has all kinds of needs and all kinds of schedules and all these things that are out of our control. And all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to handle this. What if this happens? What if that happens? So many things are all of a sudden out of my control. And that's another thing that anxiety loves, is to plague us and torture us with what if. What if this happens? What if that happens? And
fear.
And that, right, fear, absolutely fear of the unknown, fear of the unpredictable, fear. All of a sudden I realize that I'm so much less in control than I thought I was. And anxiety thrives off of, this making us believe that a lack of control automatically means that we are in danger, that something terrible is going to happen, where not necessarily. We're still probably doing fine, but anxiety likes to play with our brain and get us to kind of think about all the terrible, awful things that could happen.
Yeah.
So that's one reason why anxiety shows up. The other reason why anxiety shows up is because we are so much more independent. And not that independence is a bad thing, but I think we've strayed too far. So moms are often really isolated. It used to be that children were raised in community, in a village, where moms had neighbors and sisters and aunties and friends who were there to help out, to ask advice from, to be involved, to support, to take the baby if you needed a break and needed a nap, to get yourself together, to still be a woman and not be a mom 24/7. There was this support. And now moms, we're just sort of on our own. And often our partners are back at work after a week or two, if that. And so we're kind of just like left to figure all this stuff out alone, and it's isolating, and it's scary, and it's vulnerable, and it's lonely, and anxiety comes in and is like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing, and I can't do this, and this is so hard, and what if, how am I going to get support, and how am I going to figure this out, and what if this baby never sleeps, and what if I never get to wash my hair again? And all of this stuff comes up. So I think those are two of the biggest reasons, the control and the isolation, that really brings out this intense emotional experience that can be really tough for us to navigate through.
It is. Yeah, but I love how you said that at the end of the day, I'm not saying it's easy to do, but it's just really about understanding that anxiety is an emotion, and it feels a certain way. It feels the way it feels
Yes.
because there is emotional charge to it.
Yes.
And so where I love working with a therapist or a coach or a counselor is because it gives you the
Yes.
power to decide, you know, I am the one who is in control, I guess. I am the one deciding.
In charge. I'm the one in charge.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So much better. Yes, thank you. I am the one in charge, and I actually have the power to decide how I am going to respond to whatever is happening in my life. And that's why I love, you know, the experience of motherhood. It's so, to me at least, it gave me, it made everything in my life just like so much more urgent. You know, like unpacking these emotional, you know, traumas and feelings and all those, it just made everything so much more urgent, because if I don't, then, oh my gosh, you know, and that's where the anxiety is so, and my brain is so super fast. So that's where thank you so much for saying that. And then I know we don't have much time, but I really wanted you to also talk about postpartum depression and what are the things that you would recommend to a woman who clearly, because I have a lot of women in this community who already identify themselves as being depressed. So I'm curious to know what you have to say about that. And then what are the steps that this woman can take, given the fact that she is very limited on time, limited on resources, you know, financial resources and other things. What are the things that women can do in order to shift away from depression?
So, I mean, Dorit, I think we have to really be careful with this whole idea of depression, because there's varying degrees of depression. Yeah. Like you might have the baby blues and feel kind of down and feel kind of sad. But if you like can't get out of bed in the morning, if you're crying all day, if you have no motivation to do anything, if you start having fantasies about wanting to just like, I mean, okay, let's be honest. We've all had the fantasy of running away.
Yeah.
I'm just going to run away. I'm not coming back. I am done with this. This is too much. Yeah. We've all had those fantasies. But I'm talking about if you are having those, if it's more of just like a thought, a daily thought that like, what would happen if I could just leave this all, if I just wasn't here anymore, you know, or maybe even my family would be better off without me because I can't handle anything. I can't do anything. My baby, I'm causing my baby to suffer because I'm not able to be this present, engaged, happy, energetic mom. If you start thinking things like that, like my family, my baby would be better off without me, or feelings of like, I need to get out of here. I can't do this anymore. I don't want this anymore. Or feelings of just like, I just want to like go to sleep and not wake up again. Or if you're just feeling like just sad all the time and totally your energy is zapped. I mean, that's a tough one because after we have a baby or exhausted, and so our energy is typically a little bit more zapped. But if you just like, if you know that there's something wrong, and I think that is so important too. As women, we need to really be tuning more into our intuition. I think we bulldoze through it a lot of the time. We tell ourselves like, I'm just got to toughen up. I just got to get through this. I just need to white knuckle it. And we don't actually listen to ourselves. We know when the difference between feeling sad and tired and overwhelmed and something being wrong. We know.
Yeah.
And so when we start scaring ourselves with our thoughts and with, you know, how we're showing up in our day, when we start scaring ourselves and being like, what the heck happened to me? That's the time where we're like, oh, something serious is going on here. And so that's the time we talk to our doctor. And that's the time if we can, go to therapy. And that's the time, if it's getting pretty severe, then it's like, you need to be on medication. Absolutely. Absolutely. And hopefully going to therapy and working through this stuff and learning. Like I teach a lot of, maybe you're not, you know, the depression isn't coming out of like necessarily these past traumas, but just coming up from feeling overwhelmed and from feeling trapped and from feeling stuck and from feeling tired. And so that's why I come in and I teach a lot of cognitive strategies. I teach a lot of like how to manage our minds when our minds are going haywire. And so that's part of it with the depression. The other part, the number one buffer against postpartum depression. Do you know what it is?
Food.
No.
No.
That's important.
Oh, it's physical activity. It's moving the
No,
body. No? Okay.
that's up there too.
Tell me.
Community.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Depression feeds off of isolation.
Yes.
And it perpetuates isolation because we're feeling isolated, we're feeling down, we're feeling disconnected. And then depression comes in and tells us, but don't reach out to anyone because you're a Debbie Downer right now. No one wants to hear your problems. No one wants to hear how much you're struggling. Don't bother people with your stuff. Just like white knuckle it, just like get through this, and then you can, then you'll be fit for human consumption, right? So
Oh,
depression
oh
regenerates
man.
itself, it feeds off of itself, so we have to cut through that and be like, no, I might not be able to be like Susie Sunshine in the mommy group today, but I'm going to show up and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to talk to someone I trust about the fact that I'm struggling, just to get it off my chest. I'm going to go and I'm going to vent, or I'm going to go and I'm going to sing the songs at the library with my baby, and we're going to sit there and I'm going to sing and I'm going to fake it until I don't say fake until you make it. I'm going to face it until I break it. I'm going to face this depression and I'm going to take it head on, and I'm going to do this stuff anyways until it starts to see that it's not allowed to take over, that it's not going to hold me back. I'm going to continue to show up until my brain and the depression sort of gets the picture that like, hey, she's not giving into this. And take that also with a pound of salt. If this is more significant, severe clinical depression, then therapy and medication. But if this is just feeling like down and sad and disconnected and unmotivated, that's a whole different thing. And that's where we can start getting out. And like you said too, what we're eating and how we're moving our bodies are huge with that as well. When it even comes to moving our bodies, research has shown that 30 to 40 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week of a moderate run is as effective in a lot of cases at treating mild to moderate depression as antidepressants.
Oh, so true.
So moving your body, this isn't to change the state of your body. This is to change the state of your mind.
Yeah. Oh, I love it so much. Thank you. Thank you. And I love how you talked about medication in a way that normalizes it, because I'm a huge proponent for taking medication when you need it.
Right.
There are a lot of women, especially in my field, the holistic health field, who are absolutely against medication. And then it really becomes difficult and almost impossible, and makes everything much more complex. So I definitely think that medication is okay for the time being. And it's okay to decide with yourself, that for the time being, I am on this medication because I just don't have access to, other things. And then once I feel like I have a little bit more time, more resources, more energy, then to explore other things. But definitely, if you feel like medication is something that can be helpful, go for it.
Totally. And I mean, and like antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication, they are never meant to be taken on their own. They were never created to be taken on their own. They are meant to give you enough, like to calm you down or to bring you up enough that you have the energy to do the work, to sort through this stuff, to get yourself back into the right frame of mind and back on track. So they are not meant to be taken in isolation. So if you think about it this way, you don't know how to swim. So you get thrown into the deep end and you're drowning. Medication is the life jacket, but you still need to learn how to swim.
Yes.
So you absolutely need the life jacket to keep yourself from drowning, but you also need to learn how to swim so that so that you're actually dealing with the issue instead of just trying to keep yourself above water.
Oh, I love it so much. Julia, I keep wanting to call you Kristina.
That's okay.
Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I know you have to go in a minute, but I'm still going to ask you just a few questions, and we'll switch to the other part of the interview. So, as you know, this show is all about inspiring mothers to feel more confident, more energized, and sexy as women, wives, and mothers. So I'm curious to know, what makes you feel confident and energized? Just a couple
Doing
words.
hard things. Failing.
Wow.
Failing
That's a good
and
one.
doing hard things and failing and seeing that I can handle failure and pushing myself. Like lately I've been pushing myself more physically, and just to be able to see that, like, because you kind of get into your mode, and I go for my runs, and I call them lazy running, where I just like put one foot in front of the other, put on my little podcast and just like do my route. And lately I've just started being like, you know what, like, let's see what you're made of. And I've been pushing myself harder, and I've been running harder, and then coming back feeling kind of like tired, but it's like this energized tired, whereas like I just knocked like 4 minutes off of my run route, and that's like, that feels powerful. And so being able to see, to just kind of like connect with the power that we have in us by pushing ourselves. And I think that we can't really know how powerful we are until we put ourselves in challenging situations and we rise to the challenge.
Oh, I love it so much. Oh, okay. What makes you feel sexy?
Dancing.
Mm.
A little bit of, Beyonce YouTube video dance party in my living room. My
Yeah.
kids might disagree, but absolutely dancing.
Love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
What advice does your now mom self would have given to your pre-mom self?
Such a good question. Listen to yourself. Listen to yourself.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. My last one is, I like to keep it real and show listeners that even though someone is an expert in one area, they might be struggling with other things. So what are some of your current challenges as a woman, wife, or mother?
Self-doubt. I have a self-doubt gremlin. I'm working on it. And and it has nothing to do with anything on the outside. It is totally, it shows up at the most inopportune times. And yeah, I you know what, actually I've been working on it a lot lately, and it's decreased a lot, but it still does show up. Mm-hmm.
We all have it. We all have it. Thank you for sharing.
Right?
Thank you for sharing. All right, Julia, thank you so much. This has been such an important and a good conversation, and I hope the listeners will get a lot of it. Before I let you go, do you want to share with everybody how they can connect with you? Maybe your website, your YouTube channel, your social media. I love following you on Instagram, so share all of that.
Oh yeah, so my website is juliakristina.com, Kristina with a K. It has all my social links right on my website as well. And Instagram, I don't even know what my Instagram name is. I think it's Julia Counsellor, and it's 2 L's because we're in Canada, counselor with 2 L's. And YouTube is Julia Kristina Ma. And Facebook is Julia Counsellor as well. So yeah, on my website, juliakristina.com, you'll see all my social links on there. That's awesome. Probably the best thing to do.
And I will make sure to link up to all of those links in the show notes. Julia, thank you so much for the work that you do. Thank you for your time today and sharing your wisdom. And I wish you all the very best, and enjoy your beautiful city where you live.
Thank you, Dorit. Thank you so much.
Bye for now. Wait, before you go, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you did, I want to know about it. So snap a picture of you listening to this episode and share it on Instagram or Facebook. On Instagram, you can tag me at Dorit Palvanov Coaching. So Dorit is spelled as Dorit, and Palvanov spelled as Palvanov Coaching, so it's all one word. Or you can use the hashtag Confident, Energized, and Sexy Mama Podcast. You see, my personal goal beyond having amazing conversations with guests or hosting solo episodes is to increase the visibility for this platform and these messages to be shared and heard by women who need it the most. And there's no way that I can do this on my own. So I'm asking you, the incredible community of confident, energized, and sexy mamas, to help me with this goal. So whether you're coming to me through iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you're listening to the show from, please rate, review, and subscribe to the show. This would mean the world to me, and it's so helpful for other mothers who are looking for this information. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.